All right, hello. My name is Benjamin Kimya. My presentation is called What Dwight Howard Teaches Us About the Secret of Basketball. The object I'm going to be analyzing is an interview that I will introduce in a little bit. But first, I'd like to talk about what I mean by the secret of basketball. So, throughout history, a lot of different analysts and players have made these sort of overarching statements about what it takes to win a championship. The most commonly known one is defense wins championships. This is one that most people will say, but it's not always true. You know, in the NBA, we see sometimes teams with mediocre defense and really strong offense going on to win championships. So it's a factor, but it's not the only thing. You also hear people saying big men win championships. This was true more so near the beginning of NBA history, but in the past 15 or so years, we see that this is not necessarily a rule of thumb. And then in 2008, the famous sports writer Bill Simmons wrote about The Secret, what he calls The Secret. He says, the secret about basketball is that it's not really about basketball. I think what he's trying to say is the average fan kind of underestimates the little things that make a player who they are. Things like, organizational strength. Not necessarily about the players, but the teams. What makes a team win a championship? The strength of the organization, the culture fit of the players with the teams, and also the likability of their players. Because the NBA is such a star-driven league, the fans feel like they sort of get to know the stars on a personal level. They kind of know their personality. And this theory about the secret is for the most part true in recent history. Guys like LeBron and Steph Curry are extremely well-liked. Those are the guys winning the most championships. But if what Bill Simmons is saying is true, then the opposite should also be true. Guys who have a reputation of being not very well-liked or even disliked should suffer from it. And this interview is sort of a look into one of the most least-liked players in NBA history, Dwight Howard. So the interview takes place on Media Day for the Orlando Magic one day in 2012. The two major players in the interview are Stan Van Gundy, who is the coach of the team, and then Dwight Howard. Stan Van Gundy is widely regarded as one of the smartest NBA coaches of the modern era. He did really well with the Orlando Magic. They had some of his best seasons while he was there. And things to know about him, maybe personality-wise, he grew up in San Francisco, and he has a bachelor's degree in English. He is also 5'8" and 53 years old. This may not seem relevant now, but it'll come back later. Dwight Howard is the player. He won Defensive Player of the Year for 3 straight years. He's the only guy to ever do that. He did that all with Stan Van Gundy. He had just won second place in MVP voting. So really one of the best players in the league. People remember him now as sort of a head case, a guy that couldn't make it work with a lot of other players, a lot of other coaches. He's one of the NBA's most sort of notorious villains. And some of the differences, he was born in Atlanta to a really strict, religious, military family, and was drafted to the NBA at 18, so straight out of high school. He's also 6'11", 25, and already a 100 millionaire. So, some of the differences between him and Stan Van Gundy. And the last thing you need to know about him is that he wants Stan Van Gundy fired. So much so to the point where he told reporters that he wants him fired. So the interview originally starts with Stan Van Gundy addressing these rumors. And Stan Van Gundy is not trying to hide any of it. He openly says that he knows Dwight wants him fired. He knows Dwight made these statements. He's saying it's not a rumor, it is fact. But he's trying to be a professional about it. So he tells the reporters he's just worried about the next game. He's not really focusing on it. But they keep pressing him. They keep asking him. He gets visibly frustrated. And then Van Gundy says this quote. He says, "The only thing I'm ever uncomfortable with is bullshit. To come in and not comment or deny it, to me, that's a lot harder to deal with. Some people have trouble with that." It becomes immediately clear that he is talking about Dwight Howard in this quote. And the sort of beautiful irony is that when he finishes his sentence, Dwight sort of crashes the meeting. He crashes the press conference, not knowing what they're talking about. So Dwight enters the conversation. He's being really friendly. Again, he doesn't know what they're talking about. And he sort of joins the interview. And after Dwight joins, Van Gundy asks if he can leave, probably not wanting to be in this press conference with Dwight Howard. And then they start asking Dwight about the rumors. And while Stan is very open about it and says exactly what's happening, Dwight denies all of it. He questions the validity of the reporters in the room. He says it's a made-up story. He then starts saying no comment, and you can see him smiling during this, so it's not a very convincing job if he's really trying to make it look like he didn't say these things. And yeah, he's pretty much saying and doing what Stan Van Gundy says he hates. The quote about what not to do is exactly what Dwight goes on to do. What happened after that? Dwight gets traded a week after. Van Gundy gets fired pretty shortly after that. After his career in Orlando, Dwight spends 8 years playing for 6 different teams. That's usually a bad sign. And as far as the organization, they have won 2 playoff games since Dwight and Stan left. They won 31 playoff games with the both of them, so the franchise has not recovered. The things I'd like to analyze about the interview. First, the irony, again, of Van Gundy predicting what Dwight would say. Van Gundy saying, essentially, this is what I hate in a person, and then Dwight doing exactly that thing. It's a beautiful picture of the opposite of The Secret. Two personalities clashing. Another thing that's worth noticing, if you watch the video, the body language is painful. Both guys are really uncomfortable talking to each other. They really don't like being near each other. They know what's happening. They know what's happening with the press. Another sort of weird aspect is that Dwight puts his hand on Stan Van Gundy's shoulders. Dwight Howard is 1'3" taller than Stan Van Gundy. So him doing this to Van Gundy is like Van Gundy putting his hand on a child's shoulder, and it sort of plays into the fact that not only is Dwight, the bigger guy, like physically the bigger guy, but he also has the upper hand in the conflict, knowing that the team is going to side with him because he's bringing in the most money for the team. So it's this weird thing where you see the 25-year-old getting, endless respect, endless sort of excuses, where the more knowledgeable coach is seen as the scapegoat. So, to tie it back into The Secret, does this mean Dwight Howard doesn't win games because he's a bad guy? No, I don't think that makes much sense at all. These guys are coming from 2 entirely different backgrounds, not only financially or geographically, but just in terms of their social circle, in terms of what their lives look like. Completely different guys. It is completely natural for these guys to sort of butt heads. And for us to say that the fact that he didn't get along with one guy is a testament to his character, that's not entirely fair. A lot of the time with journalists like Bill Simmons, reporters like Bill Simmons, they're really far removed from the game. Journalists and analysts are usually the guys who are really passionate about the sport, but then are not athletic or gifted enough to play the sport. You also see the analysts are disproportionately white, considering how diverse the NBA is. There are way more black players than white players, but somehow all the analysts are white. For these analysts and these players to make sort of statements about who these players are as human beings, as men, isn't entirely fair. So those are kind of both sides of it. You can say that this proves The Secret, or proves that The Secret is made up. But yeah, it's known as the most awkward interview in NBA history. If you Google it, that's what will come up. I would definitely watch it. It plays like a scene out of The Office. But yeah, that's my presentation.